Hello, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. I like to travel, learn, and tell stories, and today I'm going to ramble on. Oh, I started a Twitch, and I played it a lot. I did a lot of streaming hours the first couple times, but even talking, I missed people who were talking to me in the Twitch chat because I just started streaming, but I didn't have any chat set up, so I couldn't see if people were talking unless I could check my phone. And I was playing a video game, so I wasn't paying a lot of attention to my phone. So I missed people talking. So if that was you, sorry about that. The game was really good. I was playing the Tomb Raider, the original remake, 2013, 2016, whatever it was, whatever the first remake was. And it is a great game. And it's such an easy excuse to play video games for hours. And when people log on, I'm like, oh yeah, see, I'm doing work because I'm getting engagement that I don't need or really care about. Because I can't give very good advice while I'm playing the game. So it's tricky to Twitch stream, for me anyway, because it can't divide my attention that well, but that led me to get a chat overlay. So now I've had a few interesting conversations because I have the chat overlay on the screen and it's very unobtrusive. But what happened in the real world? In the real world, I got free steak and egg. I was walking by this restaurant, and I've tried many of the restaurants in my neighborhood. I was going to say nearly all, but there are so many that can't be true. But I've tried many of them. And I walked by one that I haven't tried yet. It's just very unobtrusive, and it didn't really have... It had like a lot of the potato dishes and the stew dishes that I'm not as into, but it did have beefsteak a la olla with one day, steak fried with oil. And I do like that, and I wanted to try their version of it. And so I stopped in, and I asked him, and he's like, there's only a little left, so I can't give you a lot. And I was like, yeah, that's fine, but no rice and no potatoes. And he was like, but I only have a little steak, so it's not going to be a lot. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Maybe just give me a fried egg with it, and then I'll just have a little steak and egg. Because I already ate some rice, and I already ate some potatoes today, so I just don't need any more of the sides. I just want to try your beefsteak a la olla. And he was like, okay. And he was kind of reluctant, but he went into the back, told his wife, who was the cook, that I wanted steak and egg. And I could hear her telling him, is that it? Are you sure you don't want rice? And he had to say like several times. That's really rare. Everybody gets the sides with their stuff here, but I have a few places that I always don't get the rice just because it's so much food. You get so many sides here with anything you get. Even if it's only $1.50 or whatever, you always get like a bunch of salad, a full baked potato, and a huge scoop or two of rice on every single meal, at least. And sometimes you'll get a soup with that, or a torreja, or you get so much food. So I usually, if I can, just get the meats, but it confuses the people here so much when I ask for no rice. Like, there's one place that I tried to get no rice, and you just sin arroz. No arroz, no arroz. And that sin arroz means giving the plate without rice. And I mean, I tried to explain that so many times. I was like, oh, I've just have too much rice. And at the end of it, I got the same amount of rice because she wouldn't not give me any rice. She was like, you need rice with this. I was like, yeah, but I don't want any sides with this at all. I just want the ribs. And she insisted, like, no, you need some rice because it's going to cost the same, so you have to get rice. And I was like, okay, just give me un poquito arroz. No necesito mucho arroz, solo un poquito. She was like, un poquito. And I feel like I got more. Like, so when it's like that, then I give up after a few times because I don't want to give them too much stress. So with some places, I'll try, and then if they insist that I need the sides, then I just take the sides. But if they let me, then there's a few places where I know I can go and get the segundo without getting the sides. But it's pretty rare. I've run into the problem of having to get sides multiple times, like if I really like a restaurant, and then I just have to leave them on the plate because I don't want more rice, and I definitely don't want a baked potato. Baked potato, people usually don't give it to me. But rice is like, they're gonna give it to me half the time. And then the other one is corn. I just had this today. I tried to get my ceviche without the popcorny baked corn that they give, which isn't bad. It just kind of fills me up and doesn't... I'm not used to the texture, maybe, but they always give that with the soup. And today I was like, can I get no maíz, no maize with my soup this time? And he was like, yeah, sure. And then he gave me the corn still, the maize, but he didn't give me the spicy sauce that I usually like. So he just kind of mixed up which thing I asked not for. But that is okay. Okay, so the steak and egg. I just didn't want them to give me rice and potatoes and salad and then not eat any of it, but it was on my plate, so they can't, reserve it. I didn't want to waste their food. So when I was finished, which I was finished quickly, it was a very small piece of steak, but it was a very good piece of steak. It was delicious steak fried with oil. I liked it a lot. I asked the guy how much it was, and he was like, don't worry about it. And I was like, oh, no, don't worry about it. It's fine. How much was it? It's okay. He's like, no, it was a little piece of steak and just one egg. It's okay. Thank you for coming in. Well, we look forward to seeing you next time. Something like that. Well, this is all in Spanish because a couple people in this neighborhood speak English. 2 people. One guy who owns a beer shop. And I feel like there was another one. But it's pretty rare. And I didn't want to keep arguing about let me pay the 3 whatever, because in some situations, yeah, and then in some situations it just doesn't feel right to really push that on your host when they've already decided to be gracious like this. So I just said thank you, and I've been back there a couple times, but the problem is nothing else they have made has been very good. All of their other meat dishes have been fine, and they don't make the beefsteak a la ollo very often. They only make it every, maybe once every 2 weeks. I don't think I've seen it again, actually, at that place, but I've tried 3 other things, and each time I'm like, that was food, I guess, but not. There are so many good restaurants here, and the beefsteak a la ollo that this restaurant had was so good that I don't even bother with restaurants that aren't 9 out of 10, basically, because I can think of several 9 out of 10 restaurants that always have a rotating dish that I really like within 10 minutes walk. So after 3 swings and a misses, I decided not to go back to that place again unless they have the beefsteak a la ollo, which they haven't had, and I've gone by there 10 times. So I appreciate the free steak and egg. I ate there a few more times. The beefsteak a la ollo was so good. I'm bummed that the other stuff isn't as good because the guy was nice and we talked a few times. He taught me cubierto, the word for fork. Anyway, great steak. Thanks, man. Okay, I went back to the ceviche restaurant after I got the steak and egg, and the ceviche is so good. It's the best ceviche. They have a perfect sauce, which is really interesting to me because I thought I have had a perfect ceviche sauce in Panama, but this fits so much better. And someone told me that ceviche is from Peru, and I had no idea. And they also told me that the ceviche is way better in Lima and the coastal cities. But everybody says that. If you're in any country, and especially this person is from Lima, and they've basically never left Lima. Anyone who's from a city has their favorite whatever, or they're just used to a taste after, 30 years. So they always are like, Yeah, the ceviche is really good there, but it's much better here because here's where it's from. And that can be true sometimes, and it can be not true at least as often. So I'm going to go to Lima. I'm going to check out these coastal cities and see if the food is different down there. Peruvian food, fantastic. This ceviche, this has convinced me. They told me ceviche is from Peru. I had no idea. I looked it up. Looks to be true with the evidence we have. It is at least from the Peruvian area more than it is from other countries. And it tastes completely different here than I've ever had it before. I mean, ceviche in maybe I haven't had the right ceviche or something in the States. Ceviche is so boring in the US. It's basically just lime juice and maybe lime juice mixed with a couple things. This seems like a reduced fish broth with herbs and lime juice mixed in, but it's so much more flavorful, and it doesn't seem like it would taste correct if the temperature was anything different than exactly how cold it is when they serve it. I'm so blown away by the sauce here. You know what? I haven't been to another ceviche restaurant here because the one I go to is so good. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to try a different ceviche restaurant here in Cusco tomorrow, just because I haven't tried one yet, because the one I get is perfect every time. I maybe have gotten that ceviche more than any other dish in Cusco, except maybe for Malaya Frita, the beef fried ribs. But it might be the ceviche because it's perfect and consistent. Actually, that's not true. You know what? I have tried other ceviches, and they are good, but they're like the street ceviche. Rather, there's two kinds. There's one that just looks like a soup, and they give it to you, and it's good. It's actually really good. The first time I tried the soup ceviche, which is still cold, I was like, man, this is crazy good. I can't believe the ceviche is this good at 11,000 feet elevation. But then there's a different one that looks fancy and is plated differently, and the fish is cut differently, and the sauce is different. And that is the perfect ceviche, which actually I'll say is the perfectly sauced ceviche. Like, the fish isn't always 10 out of 10, but I mean, it's never been below like 8. And the sauce for me is 10 out of 10. They give a little shot glass on the plate next to the pile of ceviche with the ceviche sauce inside. And I will, every time I get ceviche, I'll sip and drink that shot glass of ceviche sauce after I finish the fish, just because the sauce is so tasty. So this second time I got ceviche, it was as good as the first time. Sauce is just perfect. I'll try a different restaurant tomorrow. I will do that. Wow, the chilcano, which is this hot fish soup they give you with the ceviche, and then that sauce is so good at this restaurant. I haven't even been very interested in trying it at a different restaurant, but I have to do that for detective work's sake, for justice's sake, for fairness. Okay, I'm going to do it. Even the fish is prepared perfectly by this one guy, and then the times that it's like 8 out of 10 instead of 9 or a 10, it's a different guy who prepares it. But this one guy, who is the guy I get most of the time when I go get that ceviche, he cuts the fish perfectly, and it changes the flavor. Okay, no roast duck yet. I went to this like fancier restaurant where I got the chiriuchu and all these traditional places, and they have roast duck listed as on Sundays. A lot of them only have dishes. A lot of restaurants in Cusco only have dishes on certain days. And this one has had roast duck listed for the past like 4, 5, 6 weeks. And every week I go there and they don't have the duck any week, but they always tell me they'll have it the next week. So I didn't get the roast duck the second or third week, but they told me they'll have it the next week. So I'll try it again. I got caught in the rain on the way back from the supermarket buying some ribs, and that was very satisfying. I really liked getting caught in the rain because it's a pretty dusty road that I'm on specifically, and sort of a dusty city because it's so dry up here, but not as dusty as other cities. And maybe it's just the pollution. It still feels like really clean air out here, even though it definitely is dusty in Cusco. But it was really nice to get caught in the rain. I don't think I've got caught in the rain since I got to Cusco. I've just kind of avoided it every time. And then I walked back in the rain for 20 minutes, and all the Cusco locals were huddling under the pavilions everywhere, but I was just reveling in the clean water, and it was very nice. It kind of tied up all my experiences in Cusco, and I really got into it. And I was like, yeah, climbing mountains, there's rainfall here, my apartment's nice, there's good food everywhere. Everything just kind of clicked for me when I was caught in the rain, and I was like, oh yeah, there are all these things I like about the city, but the street I'm on is busier than I usually like, so I hadn't fully clicked. I liked Cusco a lot, but it didn't all come together. And then when it started raining, I was like, oh man, and it rains like this occasionally, and I was like, this is good. This is a place I can comfortably live for a while, because I hadn't extended my stay yet at that point, and then I did shortly thereafter, after I was caught in the rain. And then whenever it rains, I walk in the rain now, and I'm like, yeah, this is so great. I love walking in the rain. I love rain in general, and Cusco has way more rain than I thought for such a dry place. It rained daily for a week. It's been raining at least every other day ever since that first rain, and I don't know if I didn't notice it before that or what, but yeah, I'm very glad it rains in Cusco because it makes everything comfortable and it cleans everything. If Cusco was always dusty, it would be a problem living here for a while. But if it rains like this, if they have a rainy season like this, I could live here the entire rainy season super easily. Go climbing mountains, there's so many mountains and lakes to visit, and then rain resets everything for me. But if it's just damp, if it's like Seattle, I don't want just a damp place. That's not super fun for me, but I definitely like a place where things are pretty dry. You can go hike mountains whenever you want, and then there might be a crazy rainstorm for a couple hours, and then it dries up and it's out of here. It's a very interesting climate, being so high up, so dry, and then having prolonged rain fairly often intermittently. It's very close to my perfect climate. I think I would just want Cusco and everything a little more green. Things are pretty green here. They're greener than Colorado, but I still want a super idiosyncratic microclimate that must exist in some pocket somewhere. But this is really close because there are lakes everywhere, there are glacier mountains everywhere, and it rains, but it's super, super dry, so you can just hang out your clothes to dry indoors and they'll dry in a couple hours. But it doesn't feel my skin doesn't feel dry or scratchy or anything. It's just, like I said, it's just that perfect little climate. It's so close. Now all I want is an aesthetic change. If things were really 40% more green, because there is a lot of green on some mountains, but they're not all that green. Okay, anyway, shut up, move on. I love getting caught in the rain here. I went on my first jog. That was really interesting because I've been going on lots of hikes, and I walk a lot here in a lot of different directions, but I haven't jogged yet, and I'm not sure why that is. I jogged so much in Colombia. I think maybe it's just the altitude, or actually, you know what? It's probably just there's not super close jogging tracks, and there's so many mountains here that there's not a flat area for jogging available. So I just wasn't clicking I can jog. But there are dudes who jog. There's on this main dusty road that I live on, there's actually a running and walking track that's how long? Easily a mile long, maybe a mile and a half. It's a pretty long track. I'm going to check. The place next to me is about 2 miles, but it goes all the way up into the city. So it's a 5-mile track in between 2 lanes for traffic, but it's wider than those 2 lanes. It's a huge walk, very wide, comfortably wide walking running bicycling track that goes all the way down the main street. And I see people early in the mornings when I finish recording jogging on that. And I was like, I should do that. One day I just realized, oh, well, I can do that. It's not so dusty. In the morning, there are very few cars, so it's a comfortable jog. That's probably why you see people jogging in the morning all the time. And I went on my first jog, and I was kind of worried because the altitude is extreme here, and it's in the area where it makes running difficult for most people, according to articles and blogs. But I have had zero problems with elevation sickness the entire time I've been here, 2.5 months, and I jogged probably around the 1.5 month mark, something like that, sometime last month. And it was, again, no problem. I jogged downhill, actually, to start. Maybe that was why it was easy, because my body was getting used to it. But I didn't have much shortness of breath. I listened to Foxy Shazam, and I even sang along with the lyrics, so I had plenty of breath going down and coming back up. And I didn't go crazy. It was like a 25-minute jog or something, just down to this place I know and then back up the hill. But even jogging up the hill for 10 minutes, I wasn't really out of breath. So I don't know if all the hiking has helped my endurance, or it's just living here has helped my body metabolize oxygen better. I'm not sure, but I was fine jogging. I still haven't had any elevation sickness problems at all, and it felt really good to jog again because it has been a while. But I've only jogged one more time, although I've been on a lot more hikes. Definitely went out of breath on a recent hike. That was like 5 kilometers uphill. You know what? I jogged on another hike, and that was fine, although I was jogging up a mountain for an extended period, so I did get out of breath then. I don't know. Jogging is fine for me up here. I feel like as long as you're healthy, you'll be okay, because, I mean, there are children. There are children and old people here who walk around in this all day, carrying burdens on their back, because all the old grandmas carry around the sandwich. They carry around like big packs on their back all day in 11,000 feet elevation, and they're all fine. So I think if you just get used to it, you'll be okay too. And you should definitely come here. This city rocks. If you like beautiful nature, archaeological ruins, amazing food, and then chill people, this Cusco's a spot, folks. I decided to start looking for a new hat, one of those half-brimmed hats with the neck shade that falls down the back of it. They look pretty comfortable. They look lightweight. They look lightweight. They look lightweight, and so I'll be able to carry them easier, pack them down easier. So I decided to get a Peru hat, and I looked in a whole bunch of different places before I found one. And then at the closest market, there was just the exact one I was looking for, and I ended up getting it, because I burned myself going on a super cool hike at like 15,000 feet or something. And I'll talk about that later, but I ended up staying out 8 hours and kind of burned my nose because my hat, the one I have now, just wasn't long enough. And it's been a problem ever since I got that hat. It fits fine, it's comfortable to pack around, but it never quite covers as much of my face as I want. And if I'm going to go on hikes, especially here, I just need a better hat. And so I got a better hat from this old lady, and it works better, but the back of it, when it rains, water falls down the back. I wanted the half brim so that it would be smaller to pack down, but I love walking in the rain, and I like hiking in rainstorms, so it just makes sense to get a full brim hat. So I decided to look around and get a different Peru hat. I've been using a lot of thread because I've been making a bunch of stuff lately, and the same lady that sold me the hat had really cheap spools of thread. But then I found out there was a lady like close by to her, a few shops down, a sastreria, a seamstress, and she gave me a giant spool of thread for one sol, which, I don't know, probably 5 times as cheap as the original, the other lady. Or maybe it was just because it was a bigger thing, but I got a huge spool of black thread for one sol. All I had to do was trade my soul. Haven't made that joke yet. One Peruvian soul is only about 25 cents, 30 cents, something like, not even 30 cents. And it's great because I've been fixing up hats. I've been fixing up the rucksack. I've been fixing up my day bag. I used a bunch of thread recently. Oh, stuff sack. I had to make a new stuff sack. So I've been using tons of thread. So it was a huge score to find this really cheap giant spool of thread. I was very excited about that. This was crazy. I was walking back from ceviche, I believe it was, one day, and there was a guy lying passed out or dead in the middle of the road. I don't know if he was hit by a car or what was going on. One car, it wasn't a huge road, so the car couldn't really drive around him. They were just trying to honk to get him to get up, but he was out. And it was a pretty straight road, so I could see him from a couple minutes or a minute up the road. And I passed by, and then I could still see him a minute down the road or two, and he never moved. And there was a lady out of the shop looking at him, and someone opened the window from the building and called down. And the lady on the street called back up and explained the situation. And they said they already called the police. So I was like, well, I guess I don't have to call the police. But I don't know what happened. There was a grown adult man lying motionless in the middle of the road. It was weird. He didn't have that dead feeling, and all the people around didn't seem to think he was dead, so I don't think he was dead. But he didn't look very alive. And he was gone the next time I walked down that road, which was the next day, so he wasn't going to be there forever. But he was right in the middle of it, blocking the whole road. And he wasn't bleeding. He didn't look like he had gotten hit by a car or violently died or anything. And no dogs were tearing at him, which I just realized is kind of weird. Well, it was the daytime. The dogs aren't very aggressive in the daytime, but they're pretty barky and bitey in the nighttime. And that is close to the main road also, yeah. Which they're less aggressive in the main roads. The dogs further out in the rural areas are more aggressive. Some weird Android update happened, and I guess it doesn't affect everybody, but there's a bunch of people online that there's some significant minority that it's happened to, and I'm included. Since Android sometime last year upgraded, alarms now only play through your headphone speakers if your Bluetooth is connected. If your Bluetooth is connected, it used to play through your phone and your Bluetooth. And sometime while I was in Panama, there was some Android update, and they've never fixed it. And now if your Bluetooth is connected and you have an alarm set, it only plays through your Bluetooth headphone speakers. It won't play through your phone also. And many people still don't use Bluetooth headphone speakers, so it might be all Bluetooth users. But there are plenty of Bluetooth users complaining online that the alarm doesn't play anymore. So if you leave your Bluetooth hooked up to your phone, you won't hear your alarm. And I've had that problem and actually didn't wake up a couple times to my alarm because my Bluetooth headphones were still connected, which was never a problem before. And now Android has made it a problem, which is kind of a pain. Not just for me, for a lot of people. This is a pretty common complaint online, apparently. And they just haven't fixed it for a year. But I turned my vibration back on, so it buzzes now when the alarm goes off. So even if it doesn't go off through my phone, I still get the buzzing is enough with this Motorola. The buzzing is perfect on my Motorola. I should talk about that real quick because now it's been 6 months at least since I got my new Motorola phone, and it's still multiple times better. Incalculably, really. It's so much better than the Pixel I had. I can't believe I had the Pixel for so long. I had so many problems with that Pixel phone. There are so many functionality problems with Pixel phones that are acknowledged by Pixel, and they just haven't fixed any of them. And this Motorola, which cost literally less than 25% of the Pixel 6 when it came out, that was $650. This thing was $125. 20% of that price, and it performs so much better than the Pixel 6. It's so much easier to control. The Pixel environment is so locked down compared to the Motorola. I'm so happy with the Motorola. It's still working great. It's fantastic. If you're frustrated by all these like 1,000 tiny little things like the now playing history not working on Google, or the hardware, which is also a problem, sometimes the hardware is unlatched inside your Pixel phone, like mine, and it just rattles around inside. It doesn't break, it still functions, but it's weird to have the phone rattling around inside the case. The Bluetooth, hotspots you can't see which devices are connected to your hotspot on Pixel phones. That's been a problem for years. There's so many problems with the Pixel phones. So if you're frustrated by a couple features, and there's actually, there's a lot of features that don't work on the Pixel and they refuse to fix them, I would highly suggest checking out these Motorola phones. I cannot believe how much better my G54 is relative to something that cost me 5 times as much and is so popular. Like the Apple alternative is a Pixel, and that's why I got the Pixel. And right off the bat, I was like, wow, this battery kind of sucks. The charging sucks on Pixels. My Motorola, it's really weird. The Motorola is rated super low charging. It says it's like a 10, 12 or 15 watt charging, but it absolutely empirically charges faster than my Pixel 6 ever did. And the battery doesn't get hot. The battery on the Pixel 6 got so hot when it charged, even after the battery optimization that everyone says to wait for. Motorola, one time it charged slowly, update all the firmware, charges faster than my Pixel 6. Everything about the phone is better than the Pixel, which costs 5 times as much. That's bonkers. That should not. Anyway, I'm so glad to be rid of my Pixel, and I'm so happy that I have this new phone. Oh, that's the biggest thing. I'm taking so many videos because there's so many amazing things here. Glaciers and amazing lakes and mountains and just so many things to document here in Cusco. And the frickin' Pixel has non-expandable storage, 128 gigabytes of internal storage, maybe 256. The highest is 512, but it costs like $1,500. It's crazy how expensive it is. This phone, expandable storage. I have 512 gigabytes of storage. It cost me like $40 extra to get that. If that, it might have been even cheaper than that for the 256 extension. And it came with 256 gigabytes. So I have so much capacity. It's so good to be back to a high capacity phone. That frustrated me maybe more than anything else on the Pixel, that it took up like a quarter of the storage just with its crappy operating system and Pixel crap. And then I had to constantly manage the space because I like taking as high definition video as possible. Don't have to worry about that at all. I can take hundreds of videos and it'll just hold all of them, and then I can dump them on the computer and YouTube later. But high capacity storage, insane that Pixel doesn't have expandable storage. That is it's a pathetic phone. At least the Pixel 6. Maybe they upgraded I doubt it, because I hear the exact same complaints from Pixel 9 users that they don't have expandable storage and that the battery is too hot. The exact same stuff I suffered from. Just go get a Motorola. They're better phones. They have higher capacity. They have 5G. They have everything, every single feature the Pixels have. They have all those things, and they cost 20% of the crappy Pixels. Okay, so F Pixels. Cool Motorola's. Working for me anyway. My G54. Not all Motorolas have everything, but if you just look what they offer, the G series, especially the 54, 5G, expandable storage, high capacity initial storage, good RAM. It just has, it has all that stuff. And you know what? Last week is really weird. The alarm did start playing through the phone speaker as well, after I've now switched to vibration also. So I don't know. It's been like, how long? At least close to a year that it hasn't. Then it just started working without a software update. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. But I know it does affect some people and not others. So maybe my Motorola got tired of not playing the alarm like I ask it to. Tomb Raider. The Tomb Raider game is so much fun. The first game was so much fun. I've started on the second. I've been doing a bunch of stuff, so I haven't finished the second game, but I love that first Tomb Raider game. I loved the movie with Alicia Vikander. She was definitely a better Tomb Raider than Angelina Jolie. Her story was better also. I feel like when Angelina Jolie was Tomb Raider, they were just like, boobs on a girl with rocks. Like, there are rocks falling, but this girl has boobs. And that was the whole movie, or all of her movies that she was in. And then Alicia Vikander feels like just it's an action adventure movie with a badass Tomb Raider. Loved that movie. Played the first Tomb Raider game, the remake, and it was great. I had a ton of fun playing that. I'm having fun playing the second one too. They added so much more stuff to collect in the second one, and I was still in the first game mode that I got fed up with it. And then I was like, wait, this is exactly what I wanted in the first game. I wanted way more stuff to collect because I pretty much 100%ed that first Tomb Raider new game because I just was having so much fun in the world. And then in this one, I was collecting all the stuff and I was like, ugh, get over it. But then I remembered, I was like, no, I like hanging out in this world. So now I'm having fun collecting everything. And I'll get back to the second game. I'm probably only in the first couple chapters or whatever of it. There are just so many mountains to climb here, and I really had to go see the glaciers, and there's lakes, and so many cool things to see in Cusco that tomb raiding in the video game is fun, but I mean, exploring some of these places nearby Cusco and pretty easily accessible, amazing, unforgettable, indescribable. More fun than a video game. Speaking of video games, this movie felt like a video game. I rewatched Predator, the first one, and I rewatched it for the movie podcast. Oh, for Griffin and Blank Check. They were going over it, and I remember liking Predator, so I wanted to watch it again. And Predator is a very fun movie. It was great to watch again. It was super fun. That's all there is to say about that. That is a super fun movie that is better than 99% of action movies these days, and probably all action movies. That's just a super fun movie, and it's so cool. And yeah, the Predator invisible effect is done really well. It's just amazing. And I didn't realize that the guy who played the Predator was the helicopter pilot that you see in this brief shot, which is pretty cool. Super fun movie. Oh, I shaved the skin off the tip of my finger without drawing any blood. I've been doing a lot of Golgopa, mincing up vegetables, making a little sauced salad, and then eating it with potato chips. They use different fried dough spheres. But I was mincing up all these vegetables, and I haven't cut myself in a long, long time preparing food, and I still didn't quite cut myself, but I shaved off like a 1/4 of an inch of skin off the side of the tip of my finger and just cleanly cut off, but it was only the very top because there was no blood. There's nothing. I just sliced off the very top layer of the skin, and I was surprised. And I didn't draw any blood, and it didn't hurt because I didn't actually cut myself. I just shaved the skin off. It was really weird, and it's healed by now because it was just one layer. But that was bizarre, and I wasn't paying attention, and now I pay even closer attention because I don't want to cut myself. But that was bizarre. I watched The People's Joker, which was really good and super weird and very in-jokey with the LA comedy scene and SNL and all that stuff. So I'm sure I missed like half of the jokes, but it was good to watch anyway. It's about this, well, it's made by this trans woman, and it's kind of her journey of self-discovery, biography, life in the early scene. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that I have no reference for at all. And that's always interesting for me to watch, to learn new things. And there were even funny parts. It was really interesting. I'd really like to see whatever else she's made, because there was such a cohesive story, even though it was such an amateurish indie film. Like, it felt very much like a first time indie film, and there was pretty much no budget, but she was able to do so much with the resources she had. Oh, and there were really interesting parts where she was like, break the fourth wall in the movie and be like, by the way, this is a toxic relationship. This is not an example of a healthy relationship. Because the way her toxic girlfriend, boyfriend, I can't remember. I think it was a trans man. I'm not in that world. It's difficult for me to remember a week later. But they were trans couple together, and her boyfriend was toxic toward her, but it's a funny movie, and she reacts as if the toxic things her boyfriend is saying are funny, but she breaks the fourth wall to be like, and just remember, I'm laughing, but this is a bad situation. And then they would go back to the movie, which was really helpful because the movie moves so fast and she is laughing at the toxic things that are happening. And it's a fun movie in general, very like bright and wacky, that I might mistakenly be like, oh, she's saying this is a good thing. But she breaks the fourth wall like a couple times just to be like, and this is bad, explicitly, just so you are on the same page, which is, I really appreciated. Because I think the first time she does it, her boyfriend did something toxic, and then she like reacted positively. And I was like, ooh, that's kind of weird. And then like a second after that, she was like, by the way, this is not an example of a healthy relationship. This is toxic. And then went back to the movie, and I was like, okay, good. Okay. So that wasn't like a mess up. She's deliberately doing this. Very deliberate movie, very interesting. Vera Drew, I believe, is the name of the woman who made it, and I want to see her other stuff. It's called The People's Joker. Okay, I'm going to finish on this because this was fascinating when I found out about it. LNT, linear non-threshold theory of radiation. So all the scientists, all radiation scientists, have been writing a bunch of papers because linear non-threshold means that any radiation you get is cumulative throughout your life. And if you get too much, then you're going to hit the threshold eventually and get radiation poisoning. There's zero evidence for that scientifically, and there's a ton of evidence that as long as you don't get an acute dose above a certain threshold, your body will repair radiation damage. This is the first I've ever heard of it. My whole life, all I've heard about is the linear non-threshold, that radiation is cumulative. Apparently, no evidence for that. And finally, a whole bunch of radiation scientists have had enough of that completely false theory with no supporting evidence and plenty of counter evidence that they're writing a whole bunch of papers and editorials trying to let people know that we can heal from radiation. Like, I'm in Cusco right now, and if the linear non-threshold theory was real, then I would be in trouble because I'm getting way more radiation than someone at sea level. But people have been living in Cusco for thousands of years, and they're fine. They're healthy. And that's really interesting to me because even as a kid, when I heard that radiation was cumulative, I read about radiation patients and radiation, people who got radiation doses and then didn't die. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But there's basically no textbook counter theory to linear non-threshold. Every single textbook is like, yep, cumulative. If you get radiation, it'll just stay in your body. And then when you get enough, you get poisoning. That's not true empirically, but I never heard of any other theory. So it's just kind of been this confusing thing that couldn't reconcile itself in my mind, and now I know why, because that theory is invalid, and all the radiation scientists who know anything about radiation are saying, yeah, no, it's not a linear non-threshold. You clearly have a threshold for radiation because some people live in higher radiation places, like here in Cusco, compared to on the shore somewhere 11,000 feet lower. Also, some people fly in airplanes at 30,000 feet all the time, me, other people, and they don't get cancer more, they don't get radiation poisoning more, but they should, according to the official linear non-threshold cumulative theory of radiation. So there's just no evidence for it, and there's plenty of counter-evidence that radiation can be repaired by the body. So that's great for me to find out because I travel in airplanes all the time and I live in high elevation places, and it's something I never could understand before, and now I understand a lot more. Why would that damage be the only damage our bodies can't repair? That doesn't make any sense. Considering there's radiation everywhere, too, on the planet, why wouldn't your body be able to repair some radiation damage up to a certain threshold? And all these scientists are now saying en masse, yes, the cumulative theory is incorrect by all the evidence we have. So go ahead, fly in planes, travel to high elevation places. Radiation shouldn't be that bad, especially if people have been living in that place for thousands of years. The linear non-threshold cumulative theory of radiation is incorrect, according to all of the evidence we have and have had forever. It was just safer to the people making the guidelines to say zero, absolutely zero radiation. Which, like Fukushima happened, when Fukushima happened, the nuclear reactor meltdown, and a bunch of radiation got out, I was like, oh, dang, that's going to kill a bunch of people because it's cumulative and they can't escape in time because that happened so suddenly. Nobody died from radiation exposure in Fukushima. And when I read that, I was like, how? And I didn't understand how. Because according to everything I've ever read about cumulative radiation, many people should have died. None did, and it didn't make any sense, and now it makes sense. Because, yes, they did get infected by radiation. No, it didn't reach the threshold necessary to cause acute radiation poisoning, and so they didn't continue to get worse. Their bodies repaired the damage. And you probably heard about Fukushima, and you probably heard this is the worst disaster since Chernobyl. It's been 40 years. This is so much radiation that got out. That's all true. It was the worst radiation leak disaster in almost half a century. No deaths happened from radiation poisoning. Flooding, yeah. Property damage and that kind of stuff. But there were no radiation deaths. And I was so confused about that. Ever since it happened, 10 years ago now? Who knows? I'm sure I could look it up, but I'm not going to. And now I know why. Because all of the radiation scientists are saying, yeah, our bodies don't cumulatively gather and preserve radiation until the end. They deal with it like they deal with all other foreign bodies in our personages. That's honestly quite a load off my mind to find out that radiation is not cumulative under a certain threshold. So I just thought I would share that because I found that very comforting, and I hope you do too understand the world a little better as I now do. If you want to talk to me at bitofarambler@gmail.com or let me in Blue Sky. It is great to make these casts, and I hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon.